All right, guys, so today I had a question that came in on someone asking, what is better to do when I'm looking to rent my property? Should I get a 1-year lease with the tenant or lock them up for a 2-year lease? So let's jump on in. Okay, guys, so actually this is a really great question. I like it a lot. We actually at Reedy & Company and Memphis Investment Properties have done both up until mid 2019 and 2017 and 2018 when I was here. We were just sticking to locking our tenants up on 1-year leases. Now there's really pros and cons to both sides. To be honest, quite honest, the best thing to do is just get your property rented. And but starting here on the 1-year lease, what is our thought process on the 1-year lease is that we thought we would get more tenant attraction. So get more attraction and more applications because someone isn't committing for such a long time. This might filter out some people because, you know, maybe it's not everyone that only would want to live in there for a year, but there are 5–10%, who knows what that exact percentage is, of people who only can live in a property for a year. Let's say an airline pilot, this happens frequently. Since we have FedEx around here, there's airline pilots that come and live in Memphis for a year or so before they get promoted and shipped out to another area. Lots of jobs that come in, have someone work here for a year, get trained up, move out. So we just thought it would be nice to have that 1-year lease to be ready for those people and get our properties rented 5–10% better than having on a 2-year lease. Also, kind of our thought process was, even if we lock them up on a 2-year lease, they might just move out anyways 18 months in or 13 months in. So people don't fully commit. What was our thought? Also, we thought we'd get more applications and attraction from that. Another big reason why it might be more advantageous to do a 1-year lease, just depends on your scenario, is that as rent goes up, you're able to adjust. So you can adjust your rent. Right? Saying if rent's really appreciating rapidly and you lock someone in, a year, 2 years ago on, that rent back 2 years ago, you've locked up for that long term, okay? So we can adjust rapidly. And what we've been seeing is we've been pushing our rents. They've been going up 4 or 5% over the past couple of years, $50, $75 here and there from what we've currently rented until now. And that's what I've been seeing over this recently. So you can adjust your rents a lot more. And, and also you can always just renew the lease. It's a good time to renew the lease with the tenant, 30 to 60, 90 days before this 1-year lease goes over. Just renew it and essentially you get a 2-year lease. Cons of that though is that, I guess a pro to the 2-year is they're locked in, right? They're locked in for a longer period of time. And then also what you could do in this is just have a fixed rent hike. Okay, so you're kind of guessing and projecting where the market's going. What we currently do, and we've switched recently to getting on 2-year leases, is we lock them up and then at month 13, their rent goes up 4% and we round to the nearest $25. So that's kind of our way to adjust for rent, and it just guarantees that rent going up, okay? Also, you don't have to renew as much. So there's not this whole negotiation process. Maybe when you do that rent and state that rent hike to them, it scares them away. So where people they don't think too far along in the future, and it just automatically renews. So you don't have a long renew process. It's an auto renew, okay? And just locking them in for a long term, and it gets tenants that are more committed or looking for those long-term tenants, so you have potentially less turnover. So that was our thought process of going over to this 2-year lease and just decided to try it out. It's been working out pretty well. We started mid-2019, so we're starting to see kind of that less properties to release and renew this year because it's just barely starting in. We'll let you know long-term as it goes and see where we go on this and how we adjust versus the 2-year versus 1-year lease. What's kind of interesting, talking in other terms in terms of real estate, looking at other industries with commercial leases, I mean, they'll lock people in for 5 years, 10 years. And it's a little different, like a big commercial outlet or a mini mall. but they'll lock them in for that long and just kind of have them at that, and have even like early lease termination fees and things like that. And they have built-in appreciations and re-ups, rent increases and hikes on that. Another thing, there is another types of leases out there, just giving people more knowledge. Of course, there's month-to-month leases. That is advantageous. Let's say like your 1 year or your 2 year lease expires and the tenant still wants to live in there. What we typically do is we'll actually try to get them back onto a long-term lease to commit them to that for longer, because obviously like the big goal is to keep someone in as long as possible. But what one time you could potentially use a month-to-month lease is if you're like, well, I don't know where the market's going. I actually also don't know where I'm going personally with this property. I might just want to have this person be month to month, and I'll consider either locking them in again for a longer lease term later on, or you know what, I might be selling the property in a couple months. So it gives you an option of just like, hey, all you got to do is give that tenant a 30-day notice to get out. A full month's notice, and then you could sell the property. So the con is to having a 2 year lease is they're locked up for that 2 years, and if you want to sell, you can't sell the property until that lease is expired, which is kind of one of the advantageous things of the 1 year lease if you wanted to exit the market or anything like that, or change up your property. There also are some other short-term leases. Of course, we know about Airbnb, but sometimes what people do is they have a fully furnished house to rent to kind of corporate people. This works in kind of the higher end A-class areas, but they'll fully furnish their rentals and rent it out to someone who's looking for a 3-month or a 6-month lease. Also, when someone's house burns down, insurance companies will pay for someone's rent, and that is usually like a 30, 40, even 50% premium of what a monthly rent would be at a 1 year lease. So anyways, hopefully that gives you an idea of what the pros and cons of a 1 year versus 2 year lease and other leasing terms out there. Keep checking us out. We're at memphisinvestmentproperties.net. We have all these great rental properties for you. We know the ins and outs of renting houses can help you find success. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be putting out great content for you each and every day. Thanks, guys.